Hello friends. So these are small topics that I would be doing as part of training tutorials, taking through some of the interesting cases and some of the challenges that we would have had in looking at ICU infections. So I'll take you through a very brief case summary and then we'll discuss. So it will take around 5 to 10 minutes to do this. So this was our own cases which we have managed in our ICU. So it was a 17-year-old female, so who came with 1 day history of fever, altered sensorium, and 2 episodes of seizure. So ordinarily we would do this as a panel, so asking people what would they do next. So on examination, this patient had unequal pupils with a 4 millimeter dilatation of pupils on the right side. So obviously there is something seriously wrong in the brain. So you would do a CT brain. So this was a CT brain, young lady, as you see on the 3rd August 2016. So she had this huge hematoma in the MCA region, the corpus callosum, and in the capsuloganglionic region. So then obviously decompressive craniectomy was done and clot evacuation was done. So day 5 post-op, she develops febrile spikes of 103° and with the deterioration of her GCS. So investigations we did showed a total count of 20.7. Blood culture and urine culture, DPT, all were no growth. So this is the time that one would have to look at what are the causes of fever. So as you know, friends, so in ICU, whenever there is fever, we do start antibiotics fairly quickly. But it is also extremely important to ascertain where is the source of possible infection or whether it's a non-infectious causes. See, as you see here, total count is high, indicating possibly there is an infection. Fever of 103 is something we cannot ignore. And all the blood, urine, and DPT were negative, which basically says there's no bacteremia, urine is not the source, and DPT also is not the source. And so, which means lungs also are pretty clear. So, repeat CT brain was done on 10th August, day 7 post op, because of the fall in GCS and this fever. As you see, there's no major changes in the CT. And we did an X-ray because one would want to rule out VAP, isn't it? Someone who is having a low GCS. So, and chest X-ray also, if you see, pretty much it looks non-sinister. So then we did a CSF analysis. So this is an important aspect one should consider in someone who has had a you know cerebral event and has had an intervention with the drain sitting. So you would have to consider CSF or meningitis as one of the possible reason of fever with a drop in GCS. So as you see, this patient had a very high protein, 984. I think the clincher is the protein being high, but the glucose being very low and WBC. So glucose being 2 really indicates upfront that possibly it's a pyogenic meningitis because it is too low. So, but the highlight of this case was to discuss another marker for trainees, which is very important. Very often you do CSF, it's always important to look at CSF lactate. So that's what we did in this case. So I'm sure now many of you would be doing, but this has to be done as a routine for any patient in ICU where CSF analysis is done because it gives a good clue as to the possible cause of underlying meningitis. As you see, CSF lactate was very high, 9.24 would be the cutoff. So then after initiating treatment, it started coming down 4.9, 4.5 and 4.7. So repeat CSF was done on 13th August. So glucose had improved as you see 56. White cell count had come down to 427. And what was interesting about this was seldom do we see a bug growing in the CSF. So here CSF culture showed colistin only sensitive Acinetobacter baumannii. And this is the picture of the slide where microbiologists identified this Acinetobacter. So as you know, friends, so this is a nosocomial sort of a meningitis. So patient has developed meningitis with Acinetobacter, which is definitely ICU acquired and possibly the drain was sitting in her. And so there are a lot of learning points in this that one has to take extremely cautious sort of a precautions when you're dealing with these patients, especially with a drain in someone who has undergone surgery. And this is another picture as to how Acinetobacter looks in the smear. So the learning points in this was the source control has to be achieved within 12 hours as per our sepsis guidelines. So here, if you see, she had 103 fever, and as soon as we sent blood cultures being negative, we immediately considered CSF, and we at least identified there is a CSF as the source of infection. So very quickly, we'll touch about, in this case, about the role of CSF lactate, because that is the learning point. So role of CSF lactate. So this is a meta-analysis which came from Japan from 25 studies, including 1,692 patients. And in this particular meta-analysis, they found CSF lactate had a diagnostic accuracy which is higher than the CSF glucose, protein, and the WBC. So for all the listeners, it is important that one considers once when they do a lumbar puncture and do a CSF, just put that CSF into your point of care blood gas analysis machine, which will give you the lactate measurement. And this may be an immediate clincher for you to recognize that patient has developed bacterial meningitis. This is very sensitive to bacterial meningitis. So, and it will also help you to differentiate between bacterial meningitis and aseptic meningitis. Like typically you'll have ventriculitis, where not necessarily there can be an infective source. The blood itself could be an irritant. So it will help you to discriminate between that. And CSF lactate is considered as a good single indicator and a better marker than other variables. So I would say it is good to use this as an adjunct to the CSF glucose, protein, and WBC, put it together. I think having a logical conclusion would be much better. So this is another study of again that came from Japan. So which is a meta-analysis of 33 studies, 1,885 patients, where they showed CSF lactate has a sensitivity of 93% and specificity of 96%, which means it has a good discriminatory ability to pick up bacterial meningitis. And they have put lactate cutoff of 3.5. Anything above 5, one should have a suspicion. And if someone has received prior antibiotics, which possibly in our patients, you may have received prior antibiotic as a prophylaxis at least. So the sensitivity of the CSF lactate comes down to around 49%. So that is something one should keep in mind. So always try to do CSF lactate to pick up the diagnosis early on. So following this particular case, we did publish this case report in Indian IJCCM. So the title of which was cerebrospinal fluid lactate as a prognostic indicator and use of intrathecal colistin, because for this patient, we used intrathecal colistin to treat her because it was the Acinetobacter was only sensitive to colistin. And here this patient got intrathecal colistin and she got better and we sent her home. So that's about it. So thank you very much. So I will share more such interesting cases as a learning exercise, mainly for our trainees to understand the nuances of how we should look at treating such infections and some of the learning points that we can take home. So thank you one and all.